Hey, Brandon.
Hey, Dean. How are you?
Good. Welcome to episode 202.
Thank you.
Okay. So tell folks a little bit about you, and then I'm going to have Pearce introduce himself to you.
Sure, yeah. My name is Brandon ONeill. I live in the North Georgia mountains, and I've got 11 children. Some people might find that interesting. 11 children, it's true. From the age of 21 down to I've got two twins. I got a set of twins who are two. Yep, and I own a company called Atlas Rose. Atlas Rose focuses on building a methodology for small business marketing, and then placing chief marketing officers and other marketing strategists within small businesses.
All right. That's a lot of kids. My dad's family had 10 kids, and you even beat them.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's a competition.
No.
But if it were, I guess I won.
You won. Hey, Pearce, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Dean. Thanks for having me, man.
Okay. I'll assume, just like me, you have fewer than 11 kids. And
Yes.
So tell folks a little bit about you.
My name is Pearce Cuccchissi. I'm out in Los Angeles. My previous career was military special operations, and so now I'm trying to help fix some of the leadership problems we saw there in the business world. So I co-founded and run a company called Evolve Integrators, where we take a data and psychology approach to placing fractional COOs in growing businesses.
All right. So, Pearce, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
You guys are both sort of at the head of businesses of fractionals. So you're not, as opposed to sort of a solopreneur kind of thing, right? Mm. And so, like, what trends are you seeing right now in the demand for fractionals of any sort?
I think people are seeing now that they can get higher quality people through utilizing fractional. Especially if you're at a certain growth level, right, it might not make sense to bring on people full time. So they're going, all right, how do I get the absolute best talent that I possibly can in here to set the stage for growth? And I think, honestly, previously, I just think fractionals are becoming more popular. There are a lot of people still that I get, oh, I can do that? I didn't know that I could bring somebody in fractionally. Well, how would that work? And so it's our job to basically show them how that would work. What's the start all the way to the finish of bringing on somebody full time? So I really think this is just slowly getting more and more popular.
Right. Brandon, how about you? What demands or changes in demands do you see?
Yeah, so we started our company about 13 years ago, and we started, and really back then the fractional space didn't exist. I mean, there was a few people doing it, but not in the way that is largely grabbed onto nowadays. We called ourselves coaches back in the day. It was all the same sort of thing. We'd come in, build a 12-month strategy for folks, coach them month to month on how to get it done, help lead it. I think in the marketing in the marketing space, it's particularly interesting. So for CMOs, there's a ton of them out there now. Like, everybody's a fractional CMO at this point. If you lost your IT job yesterday, you're a fractional CMO today. And so what I've seen is an evolution of, in the last 13 years, really nobody was doing it. Now all of a sudden everybody's doing it. And I'm afraid that there's starting to be some loss of trust within the fractional CMO space or within that name, right? And so it takes more to stand out and to prove that you are an actual executive, right? So I guess my experience is it didn't exist. All of a sudden, everybody grabbed onto it probably five years ago. And now everybody is that thing. Everybody ran to where the ball is, and now we need to figure out where to run, because the ball is moving, I believe, in the marketing space. Pearce, I don't know about on the COO space, integrators in particular. I mean, EOS is booming still. So I think the name fractional integrator, I think that's really interesting. I think you're creating a nice space for you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even in EOS, I mean, there's still a ton of people that are utilizing EOS that understand the visionary integrator piece, and still can't find their true integrator. So he'll help with that.
Yeah.
So, Brandon, like right now, like, what's the hardest part of scaling like a fractional executive business?
So it's the chicken or the egg game, right? It's the constant, hiring somebody before you've got the clients for it, or getting the clients and then hiring somebody. And then it's the finding the right people again. And I'll say, I think it's finding the right people who are not only calling themselves CMOs. I'll say it this way. We attach ourselves to small business. Small business is a different animal, right?
Yes.
And so there's this convergence of someone who's fallen in love with the small business, has some experience in being either a business leader or an executive for, a marketer for a small business, and somebody that's not at the end of their career that's just looking to retire on this thing, right? So there's like this convergence of things that come together, make it difficult to find the right person, the right CMO. And not unfortunately, we're in a people business and it takes people to scale, right? So if we're not finding the right people, if we're not finding those right CMOs that have fallen in love with the small business, that are humble enough to grab onto a methodology on how to do it, and that aren't at the end of their career and are hungry enough to continue to build and to scale themselves, that's the right person. And that's not that easy to find, especially in a crowded, noisy space like fractional CMOs.
So the hardest part of scaling is supply,
For sure.
qualified supply. Pearce, how about you? What's been the hardest part of scaling a fractional executive business?
I think the hardest part of scaling is getting the founders of the COO of the company to realize how much this would change their life to have a true integrator. As far as bringing people on, it's relatively simple for me. I'm using one psychometric pattern essentially to bring on these fractional. So as long as they have that pattern, which is not a lot of them, so it's just a kind of a volume game. They have that pattern, they have the right experience, and then they're more of a culture personality fit. That part's relatively easy. But these CEOs often are just far too caught in the weeds, which I can also measure and see through data, but it creates a psychological frame where it's tough to get yourself out of the clouds and see, okay, this would really be worth me bringing somebody in because it's going to put me back in my zone of genius. And now is the right time. A lot of the time, this sort of survival state creates a place where they're death gripping on the current situation, trying to get things to grow. So our job is to kind of come in and free them up. So it's mostly just proving the benefit of this overall.
All right. So here's my question. We're going to pivot a little bit. Okay. As we record this, it's just a Monday afternoon in the dog days of August, and yet you guys have taken time from your busy schedule to be on a podcast. And I think that's because a change that's been happening over the last several years, especially for smaller companies. But I'll ask you, Brandon, or rather, Pearce, I'll start with you. Like, what role does your personal brand play in the visibility of your company?
That's a good question. My personal brand, for where I come from, people like the fact that I have seen systems in really high stress environments from the military and how they either work or how they have crumbled. And so being able to leverage that of saying, okay, this is how this has worked. This is how it went well. This is how it went catastrophically wrong, and how it relates directly to business, and then how we can help you. So we understood very concisely how systems that might seem to be working well when they're put in this pressure cooker, exactly where they break, and we try to predict that in the future. So I've been working on leveraging that a little bit. I think that personal brand is important, that case studies are important. And then, to be honest, there's more than enough market share out there for all of us. And sometimes it's just more of a personality and a culture fit, and being like-minded with the CEO we're working with.
And Brandon, how about you? What role does your own personal brand play in the company's visibility?
Yeah, I used to so I came from a personality-based business. I worked for Dave Ramsey for 7 years. I was his marketing director for a while. And I started Atlas Rose while I was there. And I vehemently said, I don't want to be a personality-based business. I don't want to be that, right? So so I was fighting it really hard of trying to I want to elevate Atlas Rose. I want to elevate the brand to be the face. that's difficult to do, right? And then especially as I'm out there doing business development work, or I'm the one producing the content, or I help create the methodology. Somebody has to pick up the flag and run with it. And so I've loosened the reins a little bit, and I think it's helping. It helps to put a face to the name. It helps to put a face to the methodology. And so, I'm more willing to hop on a podcast. It used to be that I just didn't get on anybody's shows.
Right.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be the one writing the articles, or when I did, I just put Atlas Rose on it. Or when we did courses, it was always, there was a group of us there. And I was just trying to not build, everyone's got a personal brand. I'm not trying to not build my personal brand, but I just didn't want the brand to be based off of my personal brand. But I think nowadays there's so much noise that you have to, like, our brains are wired to buy from people, right? I know that. And so if I can associate good value to maybe myself a little bit, but really work hard to extend that and to the brand as a whole, Atlas Rose, then I think that's going to be helpful in the future, and even as it is today. So it's been a shift that I've been making, Dean, honestly.
Now, both of the businesses have been in business for at least several years. I have a question for you. What positioning or what messaging, and Brandon, we'll stay with you for this. What positioning or messaging finally clicked for the company and started getting you traction? Because nobody gets it right out of the gate.
No.
So did you try different things? Did you try different channels? Did you try different sort of like positions in the marketplace, or where this, not that? Like, what ultimately clicked?
I think it's simplicity. And I think over the course of our history, there's been many times where something's clicked and then has faded out, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say that one of the more recent clicks, if you will, is really simplifying what we do. We built up this big burly solution, right, where we could come in, and we were actually, instead of just a fractional leader, we were a whole fractional team, called it Brand Map 360. And it had technology and people and doers and strategies and everything you could possibly need, just bolted in and go. And theoretically, that sounds great.
Right.
But it was complicated. It was so hard to sell because the business owner just couldn't, small business owner couldn't grasp that. And it also felt like a lot of work. And then the other thing that we were doing is we would say, okay, everyone has to start with a 12-month strategy. Now, I do believe that. I believe that we should look strategically out over the year and then move through the year strategically, right? I do believe that. But it's a lot like having a guy with a broken arm walk into the doctor and say, yeah, but I'm going to do a CAT scan and I'm going to look at your legs and your toes and we're going to do the whole workup before I take care of your arm that's falling off. Right. So that was a big click. So I think between those two things of really simplifying the offer and actually, this sounds so stupid, especially from a marketer, actually listening to my market, right? Listening to the people and what they're listening to, who we've fallen in love with, and building solutions just for them and what they need at the moment. That's been a huge click for us. And then finally, the last one is we've moved away from our messaging being all around our people, are really smart CMOs, and going directly towards the methodology, right? So that there is a methodology. This is a proven thing. We've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients in the same exact way. It's not a cookie cutter thing, but the framework of it is something that we can implement. So that's been a big click for us.
And Pearce, how about you? What sort of messaging or positioning eventually or finally clicked?
Yeah, we've tried to keep the messaging really simple from the beginning, which was, one, basically without ever meeting you, I can identify the exact problem that you're having, this lack of an integrator or true COO, right, through the psychometric data. And the other piece is there's a lot of other companies out there that will do fractional COO or fractional integrators, but those people are not wired internally to be integrators. Like, there is a very specific human operating system that is able to take vision, translate it into process, and knows how to get everybody who thinks more, micro, to utilize that process and is just hyper process focused so that the visionaries can stay visionary. And so we only bring in those type of people. So you can basically see the problem very quickly. I only plug in one very specific piece to the puzzle. We try to keep it simple and go from there. And that has seemed to work so far.
And on the, and I'm going to ask Brendan this the same question, Pearce. So, as you've tried different tools, different communication channels and platforms and social media or direct mail, who knows, right? All the different things companies have at their disposal. What didn't work? Was there anything that you tried and said, like, this is not worth the squeeze?
Good question. I think we're still figuring this out of what
Yeah.
marketing channel exactly works. Probably what's worked the best for us has been speaking engagements. We can get in front of a group of people, show them the problem, get them to raise their hand, right? And then start to engage. I think just other things are pretty crowded. Outreach on platforms like LinkedIn,
Right.
if you just started to do this in the past couple of years, everybody's doing it. Email marketing, we're kind of all getting sick of having our inboxes flooded from people we don't know. So, but I think there's ways to do that properly. There's ways to do that well. And as we scale, we'll probably dive into that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan, how about you? What hasn't worked or what stopped working?
I think that one thing that did not work, it's a combination. I described to folks a product that we built or a solution that we built that is just too large and complicated. And at the same time of us trying to figure out how to sell that, I hired on a sales force that had nothing to do with marketers. So they weren't CMOs. They couldn't talk the executive level marketing talk. So some combination of a difficult product to sell and someone who wasn't folks who weren't able to go in and have a real consultative sale netted failure, right? So we just didn't. We kind of learned from that. That was difficult for us to do. We've also had some strategic partnerships that just didn't work. I thought a slam dunk strategic partnership was going to be with some fractional sales folks, and that didn't work out that well. I'm in my mind, we have the same goal, so let's come together and bring on clients together, and we can work together and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, that kind of didn't work. What has worked, I don't know if you asked me this, but I'll just say what has worked is moving to just simple have conversations. Right. So me and my CMOs, we have 5 conversations a day, 20 a week. And just having conversations with people, didn't have to be business conversations, just having conversations. There's things to do after that, right? But that has revolutionized our biz dev process. And that's been the thing that's worked the best so far.
So speaking of which then, conversations, Brandon, you first, right? As a prospect sort of enters the top of your process or top of the funnel, right? What's a red flag where you're thinking, okay, like, this company is not for us, or we're not for them, or these people shouldn't even be hiring anyone who's fractional. Right? What's one red flag that a client might throw up?
I have a story. I was meeting with a prospect. And I was just asking, I tend to give everything away. So I just am giving away my tools and all this stuff on the front end. And we were working through some stuff, and we were talking about, I was helping him build kind of a preliminary persona on his ideal customer, right? Mm-hmm. And he just kept talking about his customers in a way that he kind of like hated them, right? Mm-hmm. It was just, oh man, they're such a pain in the butt, and I have to take over this, and he kept going on and on. At some point, I mean, I'm telling like 30, 40 minutes into the exercise, I said, listen, it appears that you hate your customer. I can't help you. Right. And so I just ended the conversation right there.
That is a big red flag if they don't like the people they're selling to. Pearce, how about you? What's a red flag a prospect might throw up early where you're thinking, okay, let's just like wind this down and part as friends?
Yeah. So luckily I can I can pretty much see what a red flag is beforehand because we use the data. I understand if people are more visionary, integrator, or micro level people. So this doesn't typically happen. Usually a high growth CEO will be a visionary type thinker and pattern. But if you have somebody that maybe just had a really good idea and is now trying to run the company, but they're really more of this micro sort of inventor process type, it's not a red flag where I think I can't help you, but I know I'm going to run up into some resistance right away. What's I guess a blessing and a curse is I know the types of people that are going to understand my vision for them as well and want to go that direction. So uh, not a complete red flag, but I know going into it whether it's going to be an easier, more difficult conversation.
Fair enough. Okay, so one last question before we start winding down. Pearce, if you had to start all over today, what would you do differently?
Oof, if I had to start all over today, what would I do
Someone like
differently?
bought the entire company. There's no non-compete, but you have to start over. Go.
Yeah, I would basically go out and I would pretty much do what we're doing now. I would be offering these um, free organizational assessments right off the bat to everybody. And I would be gathering as much data as I possibly could. And probably before even selling them, I would start to put together case studies of exactly what I'm seeing in the market. And then the messaging would go back to those CEOs. So they'd be getting some free value up front. And I start to understand exactly what my customer wants and needs before even trying to sell the service.
Right. And Brandon, how about you? If you were going to start today, what would you do differently?
I would have started with a methodology. I would have made the leadership process, especially the fractional leadership process, a defined and repeatable one, as opposed to just getting a bunch of smart guys together and helping people on a day-to-day basis, which isn't bad. I would have, where we find the most success today is again in that methodology. And man, it unlocks so much and unlocks so much potential, not just with us, but our relationships with folks and their businesses are able to scale because of it and all that. So I wish I would have known what I know today in having this methodology in place. Oh, it would have saved me a lot of pain.
Fair enough. Okay, so Brandon, who should be contacting you these days, and what's the preferred way to do it?
So I'm looking for two different folks. I'm looking for companies that are looking to scale. They're probably established companies that are looking to scale beyond. Maybe they're 10 to about $30 million company. Right. They want to scale beyond where they're at today, and but want to do that strategically. They might have a marketer in place, a lower level marketer in place, but they know they don't have a strategy. They know they don't have a methodology. There's no rhyme or reason to what they do. They're just out there chasing good ideas. So we love those types of clients, those types of situations. Come in, get structure, get strategy, get growth. And then I'm also looking for fractional marketers. Looking for fractional marketers that are hungry and want to build a business out of this. We're looking for the right people right now. So if you're either one of those, you can email me at brandon@atlasroseco.com or just go to atlasroseco.com and fill out one of the forms on there.
All right. And Pearce, how about you? Who should be contacting you these days, and what's the best way to get to you?
Yeah. So CEOs or executives who basically feel like they are too stuck in the weeds of the business, or potentially feel like their team doesn't fully understand their vision and they're having some frustrations there. We typically work with companies in a relatively wide range, probably above at least 5 million would be a good target. We work with companies all the way up to, $1 billion plus, either on a COO side or just on integrators within different business units. And then similarly, we're looking for fractional COOs or integrators. Just reach out. You've got my email here, and we'll basically do an assessment to verify exactly how they think and operate. And same thing for the business. We'll do a free diagnostic, because I want to make sure that we can help as well. And I'll be able to know right away.
All right, guys, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. It's good to see you guys again.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching. You're probably watching this in a clip, but in case you watch the whole episode, you're one of the very few people who watch whole episodes. I really appreciate that. Do that again. Otherwise, we'll see everyone next time. Bye.
Awesome.